And this year, Jerome Powell just tipped his hand about what's going to happen for the future U.S. economy. Today, we're talking about the Fed pivot in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and what it means for your wallet. And you'll really want to pay attention to this because these items really are going to impact day-to-day operations for people like us in the middle class. So every August in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, bankers fly from all over the planet to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Now, when you think of Jackson Hole, you're thinking, wow, that sounds like a place that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's a resort town. Yes, all those things are true, but what's said at Jackson Hole really matters.
When I appeared at this podium 1 year ago, the economy was at an inflection point. Our policy rate had stood at 5.25% to 5.5% for more than a year. That restrictive policy stance was appropriate to help bring down inflation and to foster a sustainable balance between aggregate demand and supply. Inflation had moved much closer to our objective, and the labor market had cooled from its formerly overheated state. Upside risks to inflation had diminished, but the unemployment rate had increased by almost a full percentage point.
And maybe most importantly, it's going to impact your wallet and your investments. This is going to impact mortgage rates, it's going to impact credit cards, car loans, and yes, business loans as well. Jerome Powell had major shifts in how the United States Federal Reserve System is going to work. So what really happened behind closed doors, and what should you expect to do with your money in the future? Stay tuned. So Jerome Powell's Jackson Hole message is there is some progress on inflation because he's really been working hard to defeat the inflation that we've been seeing over the past few years. He also explained that, once again, he has a dual market mandate. And of course, that is that number one, his biggest dilemma is fighting inflation. But number two, he's trying to keep full employment here in the United States. And right away, with Jerome Powell's words, there was a market reaction. Bond yields went down and equity started rallying big time, like 900 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking about crucial moments, there was one moment, and that was Fed Chair Jay Powell's speech. And since then, we've seen stocks firmly in the green. A lot of people obviously focused on the major indices, the tech stocks and the S&P 500, but it's the Russell 2000.
If you're finding these breakdowns helpful, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe. It does wonders for the channel, and it ensures that it's going to be delivered to your inbox on a regular basis. And most of all, it doesn't cost you a dime. So you may be asking the question, so like really what does Jackson Hole mean to me? And I'll have to tell you right off the snap, we're talking about mortgage rates possibly down sooner than later. With the next September meeting coming up very, very soon, there has been some hinting and signaling of a quarter, maybe even a surprise half-point cut in Fed interest rates. That's huge. In the meantime, yes, credit card interest rates are painfully high, and there could even be some relief coming. We'll see what happens with that. And of course, if you are a saver, you're an investor, obviously the equities markets have taken off with the even hinting of changes with interest rates. And of course, if you're a saver and you're counting on bonds, well, you're probably going to get a little bit less in your bond return. And of course, that's not helpful. Savers always tend to be losers when interest rates go down. However, there's a bigger picture, and we want to make sure that we understand the real writing on the wall. And with that, we understand that the Federal Reserve's credibility is really up for grabs right now. And that's what matters, and that's what matters a ton, because once again, the U.S. is still the world's largest economy. And when Jerome Powell speaks, the world listens. So we know that Fed credibility and markets test the Fed's words, and they're really seeing how the United States is going to manage the economy moving forward. And of course, there is some global consequences that comes out of this. For instance, the US dollar is going to gain some strength, and there's going to be some global pressure because of the strength of the US dollar. And of course, the September meeting really could bring a Fed pivot to neutral on interest rates to one where they're going into a rate cutting environment. That's going to have some huge impacts here on the equities market. Here's the bottom line, and here's why Jackson Hole matters to people like us, because we're cutting through the Wall Street jargon and the DC politics to really talk about the things that matter most. So we know coming out of this that there is going to be a slight change in attitude from the Fed, and that means that we can expect to see interest rates starting to be cut as early as September. A quarter up to a half percentage point is what a lot of people are guessing. Number two, what does that mean to you? And of course, that means that your stock portfolio should go up when those results are going to be delivered. Because once again, all boats are lifted in a rising tide, and that means your investments should go up. Of course, if you are in the bond market, understand that the bonds will be under a little bit more pressure because all of a sudden they become a little bit less attractive because they're delivering a little bit less of a rate of return. What about crypto? What about gold? Those are things that you want to pay close attention to. We know that Ethereum is making a move on Bitcoin right now. Gold and silver tend to be pretty safe places as well, particularly if the United States US dollar weakens a little bit, as its credit rating may actually decrease because of this move by the Fed. And of course, there's other factors here at play as well, including unemployment and revisions in the unemployment rate. And of course, that's never good for the U.S. economy as well. So the Federal Reserve understands that they have a mandate of maximum employment and fighting inflation. And we know that the Fed's changing its attitude. And you see there's going to be a lot of action taking place in the not too distant future. With that, thanks for joining me. Have a great day. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget, the biggest battle you fight is the one between your ears of your thoughts, your actions, and your attitude. Make somebody's day, smile, and say hello. With that, have a great day.